Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, after completion of our discussion regarding different aspects of general pharmacology, now we are going to start our next very important aspect of pharmacology, that is drugs acting on autonomic nervous system. So, for that, obviously, it's very important to have concepts of autonomic system. So we have divided into two parts. In these two parts, we will try to have concept of autonomic nervous system. From the knowledge of your anatomy and physiology of first and second year, now you know nervous system is anatomically divided into two, central and peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system is further having two subdivision, that is afferent and efferent subdivision. And we are going to concern especially the efferent division, and out of efferent we know there were two further subdivisions, somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Somatic was voluntary control, that was nerve supplying to, for example, skeletal muscle. While in case of autonomic nervous system, because the other name of this system is involuntary control system, so that is why the example of this system we know is nerve supplying to different types of viscera, cardiac muscles, the secretory glands, etc. So our main concern is regarding the autonomic nervous system. Now, autonomic nervous system we know is having subdivision two, sympathetic and parasympathetic. And there is a third one also, we can say enteric nervous system. Enteric again means supplying to GIT. But although it is also autonomic, but having also some control of sympathetic and parasympathetic. So anyhow, our main concern is no doubt regarding sympathetic and parasympathetic. As far as the names given to these two systems we know, because physiologically we know parasympathetic nervous system is basically helping in digestion and rest, while sympathetic nervous system is coming into scene and playing especially to help in the fight, flight, and fright. For example, different types of trauma, fear, severe cold, hypoglycemia, exercise. So because this system is being coming into play to help out the person in the sympathy of the body, of the system, so of the person, so that is why the name was given as sympathetic nervous system. So this part was identified before the parasympathetic, because the parasympathetic was identified after many years of sympathetic nervous system. So that is why when it was identified that there is another part related to digestion, rest, etc., that is also autonomic. So then we labelize that term as paras. Para means apart, away. The whole system is sympathetic, but some system which is left, some part which is left, that is parasympathetic nervous system. So anyhow, we also know from our knowledge of physiology and anatomy that this supply to both the organ are by both parasympathetic sympathetic. That means at most of the sides of the body, they are having the dual innervation, both from sympathetic and parasympathetic. Now, this diagram is indicating it, but sympathetic, parasympathetic are supplying at majority of the side from both sides. Now, let's have some observation. Now, this blue is indicating the cholinergic part, because neurotransmitter released is here acetylcholine. So that is why the other name given to this part is cholinergic nerves. And red is indicating is sympathetic, because here neurotransmitter release is norepinephrine. Observation is in case of sympathetic, nuclei which are taking origin from the CNS or from the spinal cord, the preganglionic fibers are very short. Now a ganglia where first nerve end and the second start. So in case of sympathetic ganglia, the preganglionic fibers are shorter one, while in case of parasympathetic ganglia we know that the preganglionic fibers are longer one. Here ganglia are lying immediately after fibers are coming out of central nervous system, while here ganglia are present almost near to the organs. And opposite occur when postganglionic fibers we see. Postganglionic fibers in case of sympathetic are longer one, and then it ends at the organ where its neurotransmitter norepinephrine is released. While in case of parasympathetics, because the ganglia are lying very much near to organ, so postganglionic fibers are very shorter one as compared to the sympathetic one. And nerves end at the organ and neurotransmitter, that is acetylcholine, is released. So remember, other name given to both sympathetic and parasympathetic, this is given adrenergic nervous system because norepinephrine means other name is noradrenaline, and its next neurotransmitter is adrenaline. So that is why the name given to whole this part is adrenergic nervous system. While because here neurotransmitter released acetylcholine, so the name given to whole part, this parasympathetic, is also cholinergic nervous system. This is another diagrammatic representation of dual supply of this parasympathetic sympathetic. A third name is given to parasympathetic, that is craniosacral, because here nuclei are present in the cranial and cervical part, and here in the sacral part. So that is why the name given also craniosacral is an anatomical name also we can say. As compared to the sympathetic, the nuclei of which are taking origin from the thorax and lumbar part. And so that is why it can also be labelized anatomically as thoracolumbar part of autonomic nervous system. And here you see, because the ganglia are present just near to this spinal cord, so this preganglionic fibers are shorter one, while the postganglionic fibers are longer one. And it is opposite to in this case. The preganglionic fibers are, as compared to this one, a shorter one, and ganglion present are almost very much near to these organs. So anyhow, the appreciable thing is all the organs are having dual supply. What is dual supply? Because both the system when present on majority of the sides, they either oppose each other or balance each other. For example, important sites are pupil of eye, heart, bronchi smooth muscles, urinary bladder smooth muscles, and smooth muscles of sphincter of urinary bladder. Oppose means cholinergic or parasympathetic is constricting the pupil, while sympathetic or adrenergic is dilating the pupil. So one is producing meiosis, other is producing mydriasis. So opposing each other. At heart, although cholinergic only supplying to the SC node, AV node, atria, no supply to the ventricle, and while adrenergic supplying not only on atria but also very extensively to the ventricles also. But what opposing aspect is, cholinergic even at the level of SC node, AV node, and all atria are producing decreased activity, decreased impulse production at SC nodes, decreased conduction from AV node, producing bradycardia and decreased contractility of atria, while adrenergic will produce opposite effect. The sites present at SC node, AV node, they will produce opposite, means increasing impulse production, and at AV node increasing conduction of the impulses from that side, and similarly increasing contractility of atria, while as I have told you, and you know from your previous knowledge also of physiology, that at the level of ventricle only sympathetic is present. Here they only increase the contractility, increase impulse passage from AV node, the bundle of his Purkinje system, etc. But we know the whole heart is obeying the impulse produced at the level of SA node. So that is having very low producing rate. So whatever the rate will be produced by SA node, the whole heart, including the remaining parts of atria and all the parts of ventricles, have to obey the low level of impulses produced by SA node. And that we know from our knowledge of physiology, and again we are stressing it on this point because it's very important. Now bronchi, cholinergic is producing bronchoconstriction, while adrenergic is producing bronchodilation. At the level of urinary bladder, the body of urinary bladder are contracting due to cholinergic activity and sphincters are relaxed, because that is required for the evacuation of the urinary bladder. So body will contract, sphincter will relax, and evacuation of the content, that is urine, that is facilitated. And opposite will happen when adrenergic nervous system is activated. In that, body is relaxed and sphincter is constricted. This is opposing each other. Now let's have explanation of the balance. Balance is observed when either of these systems are blocked due to any reason of these sides. For example, here at eye, because we have just seen cholinergic is producing meiosis. If that is blocked, cholinergic is blocked. We know from our knowledge of physiology, there was and there is a drug known as atropine, which is opposing or blocking the effects of acetylcholine or cholinergic part. So that constricting the pupil or production of meiosis will be lost, will be blocked. Now only sympathetic is there. So the place that is now have been emptied by this cholinergic, that will be occupied by the excessive activity of adrenergic. So there will be complete dilation of pupil. Similar will happen here also. If heart is blocked, again by atropine. So these all parts can be blocked by atropine. So now cholinergic part will not be able to produce bradycardia, and the result will be excessive tachycardia, excessive activity of atria, and especially now ventricles are not obeying any impulse coming from cholinergic side of SA node. So only now, even at SA node and AV node, only adrenergic is playing a part. So now there will be excessive heart rate, excessive contractility due to excessive impulsion coming from AV node, bundle of his Purkinje fibers. Even there may be now arrhythmias also. That we will discuss later on, inshallah, also. Similarly, at the level of bronchi, no, if we block the bronchoconstriction produced by cholinergic, for example with atropine, the result will be excessive activity of adrenergic. There will be bronchodilation. Similarly, urinary bladder, it was contracting the body and relaxing the sphincter. So when we block it, what will happen? Bladder will not be contracted, and sphincter will not be relaxed. Opposite will happen now. There will be contraction of sphincter will be constricted. So there may be retention of urine due to atropine. So these are balancing each other. Just like a glass of water. If full with water, no air is there. Half full with water, we know scientifically the upper half will be filled by the air. That is balancing each other. And more glass of water is being emptied, more and more air will balancing the empty site. So it may be just like that. But another very important thing which we should remember for whole of our life is that is, although all these sites are having dual innervation, but sympathetic nervous system is dominantly operated by now. Up till now, we have come to know that the majority of the sites are having dual supply, no doubt. But remember, there are two sides, cardiovascular system and sweat gland, where dominancy is of sympathetic. Very, very little role of parasympathetic at the level of cardiovascular system. And sweat gland means initial, at the start of nuclei. Remember, the nuclei of the nerve supplying to sweat glands are of sympathetic. Only later on, at the level of sweat gland, the fibers are of cholinergic type. So that we will discuss and see again when we will discuss the nerve supplying to sweat gland. So important thing to remember is at the level of cardiovascular sweat gland, dominancy of sympathetic, very, very little activity of cardio. So that is why we know whenever there is a stimulation of sympathetic nervous system or adrenergic nervous system, we observe very much increased activity of cardiovascular system, activity of the heart, activity of the arterioles, or activity of the brain, and even activity of the higher centers. Similarly, there is increased sweating because at the level of nuclei from higher center, from the spinal cord, there is increased activity, so there is increased sweating during stimulation of sympathetic fight, fright, flight. While in case of parasympathetic, parasympathetic is dominant on GIT, eye, and secretory gland, except sweat gland, as we have seen. Now, here at these sites, very little supply is coming from adrenergic part. Dominance is of at GIT, cholinergic, at eye, cholinergic, at secretory gland, cholinergic. That we will discuss, inshallah. We will discuss the drugs showing their effects on these parts. Now, this is just diagrammatic representation, what we have understand before, that at the level of SA node and AV node, parasympathetic is having supply only to these parts and the remaining parts of atria, while all the remaining parts of heart, that is the ventricle are slow, no doubt apart from atria, SA node, AV node, and other parts of atrial contracting tissue, sympathetic is present at every site of the heart. Okay. Now, obviously, the neurotransmitter released from both sides are acting after binding to the respective receptors, what we call as autonomic receptors. So autonomic systems are obviously having two types: cholinergic receptors, obviously, where there is cholinergic subdivision of the autonomic part. It is having two types further: muscarinic receptors and nicotinic receptors. And we have identified is up till now for you people three, although there are others also, M1, M2, M3, and others are also there are M4, M5, etc. While nicotinic receptors are of nicotinic N and M. N stands for nervous system. That means these N will be present at brain, spinal cord, autonomic ganglia, etc. While in case of nicotinic M means muscles, these receptors are present at the level of neuromuscular junction. The name given to muscarinic is because here at these receptors, muscarine is one of the plant, alkaloid in nature, is showing its effects on these sites. So that is why when, although muscarine plant was are being used by the human beings since many centuries from ancient time. So when this autonomic part were identified, especially then the parasympathetic or cholinergics were identified in early 1900. So then we come to know, okay, these are the sites where muscarine is acting. So that is why we have given the name here muscarinic receptor. And obviously now we can understand that nicotinic receptors name given to those sites where nicotine is coming and binding and showing their effects in the brain, in the spinal cord and autonomic ganglia. Similarly, also acting at the level of neuromuscular junction. So these are cholinergic receptors. Similarly, adrenergic receptors are those where noradrenaline or adrenaline is acting and show its effects. They are having two types, alpha receptors and beta receptors. Further subdivided depending upon different sites and characteristics, alpha 1, alpha 2. Similarly, beta 1 receptors, beta 2 receptor, beta 3 receptors are the subtypes of beta receptors. The name given here alpha beta is just when adrenergic sympathetic part was identified. In those days, that was an era when other branches of science were also giving the name to their own branches as alpha and beta. For example, alpha rays, beta rays. In mathematics, alpha and beta and gamma and so on. So it is just indicating the era when sympathetic nervous system or adrenergic nervous system was identified in the medical science. Now, dopaminergic receptors, although a separate one, but we can also discuss along with adrenergic. Why? Because actually we know dopamine is acting at the level of dopaminergic receptors, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, any more than that. And we also know that dopamine is precursor of noradrenaline, norepinephrine, and then norepinephrine is converting into adrenaline or epinephrine. That we will see later on, inshallah. Now let's have a brief concept regarding the synthesis, storage, release of neurotransmitter, which we are going to discuss: acetylcholine, adrenaline or noradrenaline, or dopamine. So obviously, whatever the required materials of neurotransmitter for synthesis is present at the site. So first of all, synthesis of concerned neurotransmitter occur, then it gets storage in the respective vesicle of the nerve ending, and then when action potential come, the neurotransmitter concerned will be released from the vesicle and will come into the synapse. Few of the molecules may also be released within the nerve ending also, but obviously it will be immediately metabolized by the enzyme concerned which are present there, and obviously later on whatever the end result that can be discussed later on. Anyhow, but our concern is mainly for the released neurotransmitter. Remember, the first thing is the major part of the released neurotransmitter is reuptaken, again coming back to the nerve ending, that can again be either stored, if not stored, will be metabolized also. So whatever the release part is, remember the major result of that release or end of released neurotransmitter is reuptake. Okay. Second part is available, whatever which is not have been reuptaken, that is the left one, that will go to the postsynaptic receptors of concerned nerve ending of concerned neurotransmitter and will bind and show its effect. But at the same time, either the neurotransmitter which has shown its effect or not yet have shown, but that will also will be metabolized and degraded, and there and will also we will see, inshallah. So steps are synthesis, storage, release, uptake and binding to the concerned receptor and producing depolarization and producing effects, and obviously metabolism of the released neurotransmitter especially. This is the major thing, remember. Major end of release neurotransmitter is reuptake. Okay? But it is seen with the sympathetic only. Why? Because in case of cholinergic, that also try to be reuptaken. But what happened? The metabolizing enzyme of acetylcholines are present here in the synapse are so active. Whatever the release amount of acetylcholine is, almost none of them get any chance to be reuptaken. In fraction of second, the excessive quantity of released acetylcholine is able to produce only effect. Remaining all are degraded by the concerned enzyme, that is cholinesterase. So that is why even action is only for few seconds only of acetylcholine. So this reuptake is observed mainly with the sympathetic, that is norepinephrine and dopamine. Now let's see synthesis of acetylcholine. We know the required elements are acetyl-CoA and the choline. When they reach at the level of vesicle, first of all, under the effect of synthesizing enzyme choline acetyltransferase, it transfers the CoA from that part and the remaining acetylcholine that is synthesized and gets stored into the cholinergic nerve ending vesicle. It's very simple. These are further explanation of the acetyl-CoA and choline acetyltransferase, acetylcholine synthesized, then getting stored in the vesicle, obviously along with other related transmitters also, ATP and some phosphate, etc. When action potential comes, its release occur into the synapse. So remember, acetylcholine is present normal physiologically, synthesized, stored and released, and binding to receptors. I told you in the previous discussion also, these same receptors are being occupied and then showing the effect by the agonists also, which are actually direct. Whatever the drugs we are giving from outside are the agonists. So these are the same receptors, okay? So whether by acetylcholine or by agonist, the receptors are being occupied and the concerned effects will be visible. So these are the cholinergic receptors. A cholineceptors in abbreviation we know nowadays is calling as same thing, cholinergic receptors are cholineceptors. Similarly, in case of adrenergic receptor, we will know adrenoceptor. Okay, so if such terminology come, don't get confused. It's the same. Anyhow, now as I told you, major is being reuptaken, no doubt, but there are some presynaptic receptors also apart from the postsynaptic. These neurotransmitters acting on the presynaptic receptors also, binding and showing their respective effect. That we will see inshallah later on. Okay, what will be the effects postsynaptic? What will be the effect presynaptically? Perisynaptic. But here I have shown there in perisynaptic there are two types of receptors: autoreceptors and heteroreceptors. Autoreceptor means for the same neurotransmitter, that is here acetylcholine or agonist. So here at the autoreceptors only acetylcholine or its agonist will bind and produce its effect. While in case of heteroreceptors, these are the receptors for the other types of neurotransmitter or agonists. For example, for serotonin and angiotensin 2, etc. That we will discuss later on, inshallah. But anyhow, they are present presynaptically. As I told you, then acetylcholine is come into the scene, and it will destroy the acetylcholine into its metabolites choline and acetate, and especially choline that will be reabsorbed into nerve ending and will be reutilized in the synthesis of the acetylcholine, while acetate will be excreted from the body. If we block acetylcholine estasis, so obviously its function is metabolism of acetylcholine. So when we block the acetylcholine estasis, the metabolism of acetylcholine will be delayed and acetylcholine will stay in the synapse for a longer time. Now there are some drugs which are producing acetylcholine-like effects. Let's see. First group is choline receptor agonists. As the name is indicating it, these are the drugs which will bind to the same receptors, cholinergic receptors, as the acetylcholine is binding. So that is why these agonists will produce, after binding the cholinergic receptor, the acetylcholine, same effects as acetylcholine is producing. So their effects are similar to acetylcholine, that mimic with acetylcholine. So that is why we can also call them as cholinomimetics, producing mimicking effect. Now let's see this diagram which is showing the effects of cholinomimetics. Now we know these cholinomimetics are binding and showing all the receptors on which acetylcholine was binding and producing its effects. So not only the muscarinic but all the other sites of nicotinic receptors also, because acetylcholine is binding to all the receptors and producing the effects. So that is why cholinomimetics are producing the effects which mimic to acetylcholine itself. So activating both muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. Second group which is acting on autonomic nervous system is, we can call it anticholinestases. In the previous diagram we have seen they are actually blocking the enzyme cholinestase, which are responsible for the metabolism of acetylcholine. So thus life of acetylcholine will be prolonged, as obviously its concentrations are increased at the synapse. So now these effects are due to acetylcholine actually, but because this is due to the prolongation of the life of acetylcholine due to anticholinesterase, due to blocker of enzyme cholinesterase, that is why we are giving these are the effects of anticholinesis. So acetylcholine is available for longer time to produce effects. Ganglion stimulants, which stimulate the ganglion. Obviously these are the parasympathetic ganglion or the sympathetic ganglion. So they will having effects only on nicotinic, because I have told you that on ganglion only N types of receptors are present, where acetylcholine is binding and showing its effects. Similarly, we are having some drugs which are having resembling structure to acetylcholine, but only for nicotinic receptor. They are having almost no part on the muscarinic receptors. So activating N receptors at all the types of ganglion, both parasympathetic and sympathetic. Neuromuscular stimulant, as the name is showing it's only acting at the NM type of receptor present at the neuromuscular junction, where acetylcholine is coming and showing its effects. So we have few drugs which are having resembling effects to acetylcholine at the level of neuromuscular junction, which are binding NM type of receptors. Now let's see the synthesis of norepinephrine, epinephrine, or noradrenaline adrenaline is concerned. So first thing is tyrosine. Obviously phenylalanine is also there, but anyhow from tyrosine we will start. So synthesis of norepinephrine and epinephrine starts with the availability of tyrosine, which is converted into DOPA by the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase. From DOPA, then DOPA decarboxylase is converting it into dopamine. Now remember, if no further conversion of dopamine receptor is required, for example at the dopaminergic nerves or neuron, for example, dopaminergic nerves are present at the level of basal ganglia. Here, nature wants only dopamine should be there. So, no further enzyme which is converting dopamine into next norepinephrine will not be present. It will be absent. Only after here, this point, this ends. So, in this case, we will see neurotransmitter stored as dopamine, and when action potential comes, it is released as dopamine for these sites, as I have told you, basal ganglia. So obviously dopamine will act its concerned receptor dopamine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. according to the sites and the requirements of dopaminergic activity. Now otherwise, on the remaining sites, this dopamine will be metabolized by the enzyme dopamine hydroxylase into norepinephrine, and further norepinephrine will be converted into epinephrine by the enzyme methyltransferase, just transferring the methyl and nothing else. So norepinephrine and epinephrine will be stored at the now pure adrenergic nerve ending, especially norepinephrine, and we will discuss inshallah. Epinephrine actually is mainly present at the level of adrenal medulla, as we have discussed previously. So at all the body side, norepinephrine. Roughly we can say more than 80% released neurotransmitter is norepinephrine. Less than 20% epinephrine is converted and released also. But opposite happens at the level of adrenal medulla. It's more than 80% epinephrine is present there. The all norepinephrine is converted to epinephrine at the level of adrenal medulla, and very little concentration of norepinephrine is left. So at adrenal medulla, when the neurotransmitter will be released, that is mainly epinephrine, very little norepinephrine. So anyhow, whatever the thing is, they will bind to the respective adrenergic receptor, alpha and beta receptor, and will bind and show the respective effects. Now, diagrammatically again, synthesis of norepinephrine after provision of all the required tyrosine, dopamine, then norepinephrine is synthesized and stored there in the vesicles. When action potential comes, obviously it will be released. It will be released, as I told you, the major will be reuptaken. Okay? But remaining will bind to the respective receptor. And as in case of epinephrine also, in case of acetylcholine also, these receptors are the same to which even agonists will come and bind and show its effects. So anyhow, released norepinephrine will bind to respective receptor alpha beta, postsynaptic, and their effects agonist, if binding, will show the similar effects to norepinephrine, what we call as sympathomimetic effects produced similar to activity or stimulation of sympathetic nervous system. And we will see that these released neurotransmitter is also acting presynaptic also. Now interestingly, in case of adrenergic, the main dominant autoreceptors present presynaptically are alpha 2 in nature. So alpha 2 receptors are present in case of adrenergic nervous system. So sympathetics will be those agonists which activate the sympathetic nervous system after binding to respective adrenoreceptors alpha or beta and producing the effects which resemble or mimic to sympathetic stimulation. Substances may activate the receptors like endogenously by neurotransmitter etc., exogenously by the agonist or the partial agonist etc., or they may block the receptors. So what we call as antagonists. So they will block the receptor. So in a disease, the activity of sympathetic system may be either decreased or increased. If activity is decreased, our requirement will be increase the activity by giving adrenergic agonist or increasing the level of adrenaline. So now this is the methodology or way of treating the person. So if the person is having decreased sympathetic activity, so our aim is to increase the activity. How we will increase it? By giving the adrenergic agonist or by increasing the level of adrenal neurotransmitter, that is norepinephrine. And if the activity is decreased due to disease, so obviously now our strategy is we will want to block it, give adrenergic blockers. So thank you very much. This is the end of the first part. Inshallah, in the next part we will discuss the remaining aspects of these cholinergic and adrenergic nervous system.